I awoke that morning with a chill that seemed to reach deep into my bones, the kind that only a cold, crisp dawn can evoke. The air outside was biting and sharp against my skin, and the frost clung persistently to the trees, resembling a delicate lace curtain that betrayed the night's bitter cold. This kind of morning had a way of waking every sense, making you feel alive and alert, even as the world around seemed to still be slumbering. Despite the frigid conditions that would deter many, I felt a thrill of excitement coursing through me. Today, I had a singular purpose etched into my mind: to hunt. My heart raced with the prospect of tracking down that elusive prize buck, the same majestic creature that had cunningly evaded my sights the previous hunting season. Each step I took while gearing up for the chill outside, every swoosh of fabric as I prepared, added to the anticipation bubbling up inside me. It was like the stillness and quiet before a thunderstorm, charged and expectant. The thrill of the hunt was a familiar companion, one that stirred my senses and heightened my awareness of the world around me. This anticipation was a reminder of the primal connection between hunter and prey, a dance as old as time itself. The forest awaited me, my refuge, my second home. It was where I often found a delicate balance of solace and adventure, a place where I could lose myself and find myself simultaneously. The trail underfoot was familiar, welcoming even, as the leaves crunched softly beneath my boots. For a hunter, the forest is more than just trees and underbrush. It's a symphony of sounds, scents, and sights, a living, breathing tapestry that engages all the senses. The rustle of leaves, the scent of pine, the sight of sunlight filtering through the canopy, all these elements combined to create a world that was both exhilarating and comforting. The forest was alive, a dynamic entity that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat, one that I had come to know intimately over the years. And yet, as I ventured further into its depths, a strange unease began to weave its way into my thoughts. There was something different about it, an almost tangible stillness hanging in the air. It felt as though the woods themselves were holding their breath in apprehension, as though waiting for some unseen, looming event to unfold. The usual forest sounds seemed muted, as if the natural world was aware of something I was not. It was as if an invisible shroud had settled over the landscape, altering the familiar into something subtly foreign. As I continued deeper into the forest, the feeling of being watched grew stronger. It was an unsettling awareness, a creeping sensation that prickled at the edges of my consciousness. I tried to shake it off, attributing it to the natural tension of the hunt, but it lingered stubbornly. My senses were on high alert, every rustle of leaves and crack of twigs sending a jolt of adrenaline through my system. The deeper I went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became, as if the forest itself was whispering secrets I was not meant to hear. And then, I saw it. There, in the midst of a fern-laden clearing, lay a deer, lifeless and grotesquely mutilated. The scene before me was more than disturbing. It was the unmistakable aftermath of a beast's savage attack. My heart thundered against my ribs, disbelief etched across my face as I surveyed the grim display. These woods, once a sanctuary that provided peace, now felt heavy and sinister. An invisible weight pressed against my chest, and an unsettling awareness crept over me. I was being watched. Unseen eyes, the gaze of some predator perhaps, tracked my every movement with a chilling intensity. The feeling was inescapable, a constant reminder of the danger lurking just beyond my sight. The forest had transformed from a place of refuge into a realm of shadows and hidden threats. The silence pervading the forest was abruptly shattered by an unearthly scream, a sound so chilling and foreign it seemed to freeze the very air around me. Instant panic surged through my veins, desperately propelling me to flee back to my truck, to safety. But the forest, as though conspiring against my escape, thwarted my every step. Beneath me, the very ground seemed to shift suddenly, and I found myself ensnared, trapped amidst a nightmarish bog of mud and intertwining roots. Each struggle to break free only served to deepen my entrapment, hope ebbing away with every passing second. The forest, once a place of refuge, had become a trap, its familiar paths now treacherous and unfamiliar. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing the urgency of my predicament. The landscape I had known so well had become an alien terrain, filled with obstacles that seemed to conspire against my every move. Just as despair began to surround me completely, a voice I knew well pierced the darkness. Kenny. Relief flooded through me like a long-awaited tide. Kenny was here. His appearance was a beacon amidst the gloom, yet his expression mirrored the dread reflecting in my own eyes. He had felt it too. Together, our bond forged strong by years of friendship and shared experiences, we discovered the source of my fear, a colossal tree torn from the earth, its trunk scarred with gargantuan footprints unfathomable in scale. The sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, a testament to the power of the creature that roamed these woods. The enormity of the footprints spoke of a creature beyond our comprehension, its presence a formidable force within the forest. The evidence before us was undeniable, a stark reminder of the unknown dangers that lurked within the shadows. Kenny and I locked eyes, a shared understanding passed silently between us. We were not alone in these woods. An uncharted creature, immense in both size and strength, roamed these parts. Our resolve hardened, bolstered by the camaraderie between us. With weapons at the ready, we pressed onward, determined to confront this unknown entity and uncover the secrets the forest had concealed. The sense of adventure that had initially driven me into the woods was now replaced by a grim determination to face whatever lay ahead. The stakes had shifted, and the hunt had become a quest for survival and understanding. Our journey had transformed into a mission, one that demanded courage and resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. The confrontation that ensued was rapid and brutal, far beyond anything we could have imagined. The creature was unlike any other, a beast both towering and feral. It charged at us, unfazed by our firing weapons, each shot merely echoing through the trees, ineffective against its height. The encounter left us shaken to our core, our bravado torn away, replaced with icy tendrils of fear and uncertainty. We were left to reckon with the sheer magnitude of the presence we had encountered. The forest, once a place of solace, had become a battlefield, the air thick with tension and the echoes of our struggle. Our efforts to fend off the creature seemed futile, its strength and ferocity unmatched by anything we had ever faced. The realization that we were outmatched was a sobering one, forcing us to confront our own vulnerabilities in the face of nature's raw power. In the days that followed, whispers of strange occurrences spread through the village like wildfire. Livestock vanished without a trace, feeding into the tales of an impending, lurking terror that was tightening its grip on the community. Some skeptics dismissed our story as merely the fearful imaginations of men overwhelmed by the majesty of nature. But others listened, those who had noticed unsettling signs and could no longer remain dormant in denial. The village, once a place of peace, was now a community on edge, its inhabitants wary and watchful. The sense of unease permeated daily life, a constant undercurrent of anxiety that refused to be ignored. The once familiar routines had been disrupted, replaced by an atmosphere of vigilance and caution. The forest, once a haven teeming with bounty and beauty, had transformed into a shadowy realm, filled with secrets not meant for human discovery. Each night, as I lay ensnared in my thoughts, the echoes of that haunting scream replayed endlessly in my mind, a relentless reminder of the enigmatic unknown that lurked just beyond the tree line, forever watching, forever waiting. The forest had changed, and so had I, forever marked by the encounter with the unknown. The experience had left an indelible mark on my soul, a constant reminder of the mysteries that lay hidden in the depths of the woods. It was a transformation that could not be undone, a shift in perception that altered my understanding of the world around me. The echoes of that day lingered in my mind, a haunting melody of fear and wonder that played on, night after night. The forest had become a part of me, its secrets intertwined with my own, a testament to the profound impact of our encounter with the unknown. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. When I first moved into the old, creaky Victorian house, it seemed like the change I needed, a new chapter, a fresh start. The neighborhood was silent, the streets lined with trees whose leaves whispered in the wind. The house stood at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, its windows like eyes watching over the street. It was the kind of place that seemed to hold stories in its walls, the kind of stories I was eager to become a part of. There was a certain charm in its age, a history that seemed to be woven into the very fabric of its structure. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind through the eaves seemed to tell a tale of the past, of lives lived within its walls. Yet, there was something about the basement that always felt a little off to me, a chill that went beyond the typical dampness of such spaces. The air down there was different, heavier somehow, as if it carried the weight of secrets long forgotten. Each time I descended the wooden stairs, a sense of unease would settle in the pit of my stomach, a feeling that I couldn't quite shake off. It was as if the very walls were watching me, holding their breath as I explored their depths. One rainy afternoon, while inspecting my home for some much-needed repairs, I stumbled upon a hidden door at the far end of the basement. It looked ancient, with rusty hinges and a heavy padlock that crumbled under a few solid knocks with a hammer. Behind the door lay a dark, narrow tunnel. The discovery felt like something out of a mystery novel, the kind that promised adventure but also danger. Curiosity piqued. I took a flashlight and ventured in, feeling a mix of excitement and unease. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing walls that seemed to close in on me as I walked further. The tunnel seemed to stretch endlessly, a labyrinth of shadows and echoes. Each step I took seemed to reverberate off the walls, creating a symphony of sounds that only heightened my anxiety. The air was thick, almost tangible, wrapping around me like a shroud as I moved deeper into the unknown. The tunnel seemed endless, and a strange smell, damp and slightly metallic, lingered in the air. It was the kind of smell that clung to the back of your throat, refusing to let go. The walls closed in on me as I pressed forward, the earth feeling alive around me. Just a bit further in, I heard a faint scratching sound. It was subtle, almost easy to dismiss, but it sent a shiver down my spine. Nerves took the better of me, and I retreated quickly, deciding to explore more in the daylight. As I backed away, the darkness seemed to follow, a living thing that breathed with anticipation. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, lurking just out of sight, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The sensation was unnerving, a constant prickling at the back of my neck that refused to be ignored. Strange occurrences began shortly after. Items would disappear and reappear in odd places. Keys left in the kitchen would wind up in the living room. My favorite coffee cup vanished altogether. It was as if the house had a mind of its own, playing tricks on me. Assuming it was just moving stress getting to me, I brushed off these odd events. I told myself it was nothing, just the chaos of settling into a new place. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The sense of being watched grew stronger, an invisible presence that seemed to follow me from room to room, always just out of sight. It was a sensation that gnawed at the edges of my consciousness, whispering of things unseen and unknown. However, the unease soon turned into a chilling sensation that someone or something was sharing the house with me. I started feeling observed, like unseen eyes were following my every move. It was a feeling that crept up on me slowly, a whisper in the back of my mind that grew louder with each passing day. Determined for answers, I installed security cameras around the house, focusing them especially on the kitchen area where disturbances were most frequent. I hoped the cameras would provide clarity, a rational explanation for the irrational happenings. Each night, I would review the footage, hoping to catch a glimpse of whatever was causing the disturbances, but each time I was met with disappointment and a growing sense of dread. The more I watched, the more I felt the house itself was conspiring against me, hiding its secrets just out of reach. It was a quiet night when I decided to check the footage. To my horror, there was an animal-like creature, emaciated with pale skin and large, black eyes rummaging through the pantry, silently and efficiently. It looked like nothing I had ever seen before, leaving the hairs on my neck standing at attention. Its movements were quick and deliberate, suggesting intelligence, perhaps even malice. The sight of it sent a jolt of fear through me, a primal terror that I couldn't ignore. I watched in disbelief as it moved with a fluid grace, its eyes scanning the room with a chilling awareness. It was as if the creature knew it was being watched, taunting me with its presence. In a panic, I contacted the police, who seemed skeptical yet obliged to investigate. They arrived promptly, 2 officers with unwavering gazes, assuring me they would get to the bottom of it. Their presence was a comfort, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this. However, the minutes turned into hours as they explored the property, particularly the basement and tunnel, where I was last able to track the creature's movements. I waited anxiously, the silence of the house pressing down on me like a weight. Each tick of the clock seemed to echo in the stillness, a reminder of the unknown lurking beneath my feet. The longer I waited, the more the fear grew, a creeping dread that settled in my bones. Silence. I waited anxiously on the porch, watching the clouds cover the moon, casting everything in shadow. The night seemed to stretch on forever, each minute an eternity. Then, nothing. The officers never emerged from the depths of the house. Fear clawed at my chest as I contemplated my next move. I couldn't simply wait for their return when every instinct screamed that something had gone terribly wrong. The realization hit me like a cold wave. I was on my own. The thought was terrifying, but I knew I couldn't just sit and wait for something to happen. I had to take action, even if it meant facing the unknown alone. The decision was both empowering and terrifying, a choice that would change everything. Armed with a sense of desperation, I grabbed a flashlight and a small handgun I kept for emergencies. Into the tunnel I descended, its dark maw felt all the more oppressive now compared to my first exploration. The air was thick with tension, each step echoing in the confined space. The deeper I ventured, the more palpable the sense of dread became, an aura of rawness that seeped into my bones. It was as if the tunnel itself was alive, breathing with a malevolent presence. The darkness seemed to close in around me, a suffocating embrace that threatened to overwhelm my senses. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, but I pressed on, driven by a need for answers. Finally, the tunnel opened into a large chamber. The beam of my flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing a grisly sight, remnants of what once might have been human. The scene was a nightmare come to life, a tableau of horror that defied comprehension. My breath caught in my throat as I tried to comprehend the scene, the monstrous predator lurking just at the edge of my vision. It watched me with those soulless eyes, a hunter sizing up its prey. The realization that I was not alone hit me with a force that left me reeling, a cold dread that settled in the pit of my stomach. It was a moment of clarity, a terrifying understanding of the danger I faced. And then, it attacked. Its speed was astounding, a blur of pale limbs that lunged at me from the darkness. My heart hammered in my chest as I fired the gun, missing my first 2 shots in my panic. The creature screeched, a sound both alien and pained. It was a sound that pierced through the darkness, a cry of rage and agony. Then, a shot found its mark, hitting it squarely in the chest. It collapsed with a final wheeze, its body crumpling into the shadows. The silence that followed was deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos that had just unfolded. The relief was immediate, but so was the horror of what I had done. Exhausted and covered in sweat, I slumped to the floor, trying to catch my breath. The sheer disbelief of having survived such an encounter filled me. It was over, but the terror lingered, a shadow that clung to my thoughts. Sirens blared in the distance as consciousness began to slip away. The sound was a lifeline, pulling me back from the brink. I closed my eyes, letting the exhaustion wash over me, a wave of relief mingled with the remnants of fear. The ordeal had been unlike anything I had ever experienced, a test of my will and courage. I awoke in a speeding ambulance, the reassuring presence of a paramedic by my side. My body ached, but I was strangely at peace, as if having confronted that terror lent me some measure of strength I hadn't known. The paramedic's voice was a balm, soothing the raw edges of my fear. Piecing back together my shattered nerves, my thoughts drifted to mundane comfort. The world outside the ambulance seemed distant, a blur of lights and sounds that faded into the background. It was a moment of calm after the storm, a chance to breathe and reflect. "Did you find my coffee cup?" I croaked, eliciting a soft chuckle from the paramedic. It was a small thing, a token of normalcy in a world that had been turned upside down. The question seemed absurd in light of everything that had happened, but it was a reminder of the life I had almost lost. It was a tether to reality, a connection to the world I knew. "No cup, but you're safe now," came the reply, a lifeline in the midst of insanity. The words were a promise, a reassurance that the nightmare was over. As I lay back on the stretcher, the street lights flashing above, I realized I was indeed safe. Whatever haunted my new house was gone, but the marks it left, physical and mental, would serve as a stark reminder of the darkness that sometimes lurks below the surface of our everyday lives. The experience had changed me, leaving a scar that would never fully heal. But I had faced the shadows and emerged into the light, a survivor of the darkness that lay beneath. The ordeal had tested me in ways I never imagined, but it had also shown me the strength I possessed, a resilience that I would carry with me always. It was a lesson in courage, a testament to the power of facing one's fears. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. The summer of 2002 marked a significant turning point in my life, a pivotal moment that would forever alter my understanding of the world around me. It was during this time that I accepted a position as a security guard in a quaint seaside town along the picturesque coast of Maine. This town was renowned for its tranquil beaches and charming boardwalks, a place that seemed to exist in a world of its own, untouched by the chaos of modern life. The town, with its picturesque views and serene ambience, appeared almost otherworldly, as if it had been plucked from the pages of a storybook. During daylight hours, it was a haven for tourists and locals alike, who flocked to its shores to soak in the sun and enjoy the gentle lapping of the waves. The allure of the town was undeniable, with its vibrant sunsets painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, creating a breathtaking backdrop that captivated all who witnessed it. The golden light would dance on the water, reflecting a kaleidoscope of colors that seemed to enchant everyone who gazed upon it. The town's charm was magnetic, drawing people in with its promise of peace and beauty. Yet, As the sun dipped below the horizon and the vibrant colors faded into the inky darkness of night, the town's atmosphere underwent a profound transformation. It was during these nighttime hours that the town's true essence emerged, an essence steeped in mystery and the unexplained. Local residents often spoke in hushed tones about strange occurrences and inexplicable events that seemed to be woven into the very fabric of the town's history. These were tales passed down through generations, shared almost casually, as if the supernatural were as commonplace as the ocean's tides. I, being naturally skeptical, dismissed these stories as mere folklore, entertaining tales spun to thrill and captivate. I regarded them as harmless, the kind of stories that added a touch of intrigue to an otherwise peaceful place. However, I was blissfully unaware that my skepticism was on the verge of being profoundly challenged, that my understanding of reality was about to be tested in a way I could never have imagined. The whispers of the town's mysterious past were about to become a vivid reality that I could not ignore. The core of my responsibilities as a security guard revolved around nightly patrols, with the North Trail being a particular area of focus. This narrow, winding path wove its way through dense woods, eventually opening up to the expansive beach. The air along the trail was thick with the scent of salt from the nearby ocean, mingling with the fresh, earthy aroma of pine trees. It was a sensory experience that I found oddly soothing, grounding me in the present moment and providing a sense of calm. The rhythmic sound of the waves crashing in the distance added a melodic backdrop to my nightly routine, lulling me into a false sense of security. The familiar sights and sounds of the trail had become a comforting ritual, a nightly journey that I had come to cherish. Yet, one particular night deviated sharply from the routine tranquility I had grown accustomed to, marking a night that would forever alter my perception of reality. It was a night that would shatter the illusion of safety and thrust me into a world of the unknown. As I methodically navigated the trail, my flashlight cutting through the dimness, I encountered something wholly unexpected. At the edge of the woods, seemingly waiting in the shadows, stood a figure, a young girl, no older than 12. Her attire, a flowing white dress, starkly contrasted with the darkness surrounding her, and her long, dark hair cascaded down her back. She stood there as if entranced, her eyes conveying a sense of vacancy and disorientation. The sight was startling, and I approached her cautiously, my flashlight illuminating her features, casting light upon her pale, expressionless face. Her presence was unsettling, a stark contrast to the familiar surroundings I had come to know so well on my nightly rounds. Her sudden appearance was like a jolt to my senses, a disruption of the natural order that I had come to expect. "Are you lost?" I inquired, striving to infuse reassurance into my voice despite the unsettling nature of the encounter. Her response was a slow nod, her voice barely audible, yet the words sent a shiver down my spine. "Can you take me home?" she asked, her tone laced with an inexplicable eeriness. There was an oddity about her, a dissonance I couldn't quite pinpoint. It might have been the manner in which she spoke, her tone barely more than a whisper, or perhaps it was the chilling breeze that seemed to accompany her presence, raising goosebumps on my arms. Despite the uneasy feeling gnawing at the edges of my consciousness, I found myself agreeing to help her, propelled by a sense of duty. Her vulnerability tugged at my instincts, compelling me to ensure her safety despite the growing sense of dread. Her request, simple yet profound, resonated with an urgency that I could not ignore. The night air was heavy with anticipation as we walked together along the trail, her silence amplifying the sound of my own footsteps crunching against the gravel. Her own steps, in stark contrast, were nearly soundless, as if she floated just above the ground. I made several attempts at conversation, posing questions to gather some understanding of her situation, but her answers were vague, almost detached, providing little to no clarity. Her silence was disconcerting, Yet inexplicably, I was drawn to ensuring her safety. Her presence seemed to cast a spell, an unspoken bond that compelled me to see her safely through the night. The silence between us was both a barrier and a connection, a shared journey through the shadows of the unknown. Then, without any prior indication, she halted our progress. We found ourselves near a cluster of ancient trees, their gnarly branches casting eerie, distorted shadows under the luminescent glow of the moon. Before I could react, she turned abruptly and ventured into the woods, her figure swiftly swallowed by the darkness. A surge of panic jolted through me, and I called out in desperation for her to stop, but my pleas were met with silence. Her presence vanished into the dense thicket. For a moment, paralyzed by uncertainty, I hesitated. The woods around me were cloaked in an unnatural silence, save for the occasional rustle of leaves. Resolved to find her, I ventured forward, my flashlight beam slicing through the darkness, revealing nothing but the hollow figures of trees. The eerie silence pressed in on me, amplifying the sense of urgency and fear that gripped my heart. Just when I considered conceding my search and retracing my steps, something caught my eye, deep within the woods, and my heart froze. The dense canopy above seemed to close in, amplifying the darkness and heightening my sense of urgency. In a small clearing, there stood the girl once more. But the innocence that had marked her face mere moments ago was gone, replaced by a nightmarish visage. Her features were distorted into a grotesque mask, shadows twisting across her face, and where her eyes should have been, there were only hollow recesses. A wave of terror gripped me, rooting me momentarily before instinct took over, propelling me backward, my heart pounding furiously in my chest. With adrenaline fueling my retreat, I sprinted, not daring to stop or look back until I reached the reassuring brightness of the main road. The safety of the road felt like a sanctuary, a stark contrast to the terror that had gripped me moments before. The encounter had shaken me to my core, leaving me breathless and bewildered. The following morning, I relayed my harrowing encounter to local authorities, but their investigations yielded no trace of the mysterious girl. It was as though she had evaporated, leaving behind no clues or traces. However, this perplexing mystery took a sinister turn days later when construction workers unearthed a chilling discovery near the very same North Trail. The skeletal remains of a young girl were found, their fragile bones nestled in the earth, her face reportedly beyond recognition after all these years beneath the soil. The revelation sent a cold shiver down my spine, the association undeniable. The name of the girl unearthed bore an uncanny resemblance to the one I had encountered that fateful night. It was as if she had returned from her earthen grave, driven by an unfulfilled purpose known only to her. The chilling connection between the ghostly figure and the skeletal remains haunted my thoughts, leaving me to ponder the mysteries of life and death. The discovery added a new layer of complexity to the enigma, intertwining the past with the present in a way that defied explanation. 4 months on end, the experience lingered in my thoughts, casting a long shadow over my daily life. The town continued to buzz with whispers concerning the ghostly apparition, her spectral story weaving itself into the tapestry of local folklore, yet another chilling tale to add to the town's lore. The story spread like wildfire, captivating the imaginations of those who heard it, adding an air of mystery to the otherwise peaceful town. The legend of the girl became a part of the town's identity, a haunting reminder of the unknown that lay just beyond the edge of understanding. Even now, years later, the memory refuses to fade, etched sharply in my mind. I cannot forget the way her face twisted into something of pure nightmare, a transformation that defies natural explanation. It often haunts my solitary thoughts, prompting persistent wonderings about her intentions that night. Yet, despite my musings, I understand that some mysteries are best left unresolved, interred within the distant shadows of the past where they belong. The unanswered questions linger, a reminder of the inexplicable events that forever changed my understanding of reality. The experience remains a part of me, a testament to the mysteries that lie beyond the realm of the known. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. As the radiant sun began its languid descent toward the horizon, the expansive sky transformed into a breathtaking canvas painted with strokes of deep crimson and vibrant gold. The colors blended seamlessly, creating a serene yet ominous atmosphere that wrapped itself around me like a cloak as I stood at the enigmatic brink of the Whispering Woods. This forest, shrouded in mystery and possessing an uncanny allure, had captivated imaginations for generations. An endless stream of tales circulated within our community's lore, each recounting eerie warnings meticulously preserved through the passage of time. These narratives spoke of supernatural whispers that drifted through the dense canopy like ghostly breezes and of elusive shadows that prowled and observed from the forest's impenetrable depths. Every story, woven into the rich tapestry of our heritage, was spoken in whispered tones, as though to avoid summoning the very specters said to inhabit the woodlands. The Whispering Woods had always been a source of fascination and trepidation, a place where reality seemed to blur with the supernatural. The stories passed down through generations were not just tales, they were warnings, cautionary accounts of those who had dared to venture too far into its depths and never returned. The forest was alive with secrets, its very essence intertwined with the unknown. It was a place where the line between the seen and the unseen was thin, where the whispers of the past mingled with the present, creating an atmosphere thick with mystery and intrigue. On that fateful and unforgettable evening, my insatiable curiosity surfaced as an unstoppable force, transcending any trepidation that lingered within my heart. Although I urged myself to remain prudent, a stronger yearning compelled me to explore. Armed only with a flashlight, whose beam flickered like a timid beacon in the encroaching darkness, I set foot beyond the comfort of the tree-line. Confidence, like an ill-fitting garment, hung loosely on my frame, but I pressed onwards into the expansive unknown. The path I followed was narrow and serpentine, winding deeper into the forest's enigmatic core, almost as if it sought to shield itself from any intrusive presence. With each hesitant step, the enveloping darkness grew denser, an imposing gloom that seemed to consume what sparse light my flashlight offered. The sound of crisp leaves crunching underfoot echoed through the stillness, amplifying my presence and creating the unsettling impression that the forest itself was attentively listening. Despite the warm season's embrace, a peculiar chill permeated the air, adhering to my skin like an invisible cloak in defiance of the night's warmth. It was as though the forest exhaled a breath of foreboding, its unseen tendrils clinging to me with an eerie familiarity. With every step deeper into the woods, the trees appeared to close in around me, cocooning me within their shadowy whispers. I strained to discern their murmurs, initially dismissing them as nothing more than the wind's gentle caress through the leaves. However, as I focused more intently, the whispers became clearer, a haunting symphony of nearly coherent sounds, tantalizingly close to understanding. It felt as if the very essence of the forest engaged in secretive dialogues, conversations held just beyond the edge of my comprehension. The deeper I ventured, the more palpable the forest's presence became. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the very trees were holding their breath, waiting for something to unfold. Shadows danced at the periphery of my vision, flickering in and out of existence like specters teasing the edges of reality. The forest seemed to pulse with a life of its own, its whispers growing louder, more insistent, as if urging me to uncover the secrets hidden within its depths. Initially, my courage stood firm, a steady anchor amidst uncertainty, but it began to waver when the night's silence was suddenly rent by the sound of a child's laughter, a sound both foreign and otherworldly. It was an eerie infusion of the inviting and the terrifying, its presence keenly out of place. My thoughts yanked me back to well-documented accounts, tales of innocent children who had ventured into the forest's embrace, only to vanish without a trace, consumed by the forest's unsolved mysteries. The echo of each story urged me to retreat, yet an inexplicable force drew me forward, compelling me to unearth whatever truths lay buried in the shadowed recesses of the woods. The laughter swelled, drawing closer, accompanied now by the gentle padding of footsteps encircling me, invisible yet unmistakably felt. My flashlight faltered, casting erratic and jittery shadows that seemed to mock me with sinister delight, their dark forms sneering as I battled to maintain composure. Panic surged within me, constricting my chest as a vice might hold its quarry. Yet determination overrode my fear, a stubborn resolve gripped me, an adamant refusal to turn back without unveiling the truths hidden within these legendary tales that had fueled the fires of local folklore for centuries. The forest was alive with the echoes of the past, its whispers weaving a tapestry of fear and fascination. Each step I took seemed to reverberate through the woods, as if the very ground beneath me was absorbing my presence, adding my story to the countless others that had unfolded within its boundaries. The air was charged with an energy that was both exhilarating and terrifying, a reminder that the forest was a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary coexisted in a delicate balance. Without warning, the path ceased beneath my feet, vanishing as though swallowed by the earth. I found myself standing in a small, ethereal clearing bathed in the moon's silvery glow. This clearing, an unexpected oasis of calm amidst the forest's tumult, was bordered by ancient stones laid out with deliberate precision and etched with symbols beyond my comprehension. Their presence commanded both respect and awe, as if they had served as vigilant custodians to the unfolding horrors long ago cloaked in this silent sanctuary. It was within this hallowed glade that I confronted it, a ghostly apparition materializing at the clearing's edge, emerging from the shadows. This figure towered above me, its form marked by imposing height and unsettling gauntness. Limbs appeared twisted beyond nature's intended bounds, its eyes glowing with an unearthly, internal flame. Primal terror rooted me in place, seizing control as I watched it move with a chilling grace, silent and swift, closing in with the certainty of a predator claiming its prey. Desperation ignited a fierce instinct within me, a refusal to yield to the encroaching darkness. Spinning on my heel, I fled in blind panic, diving into the forest's embrace with a reckless abandon that propelled me forward. Branches clawed and raked at my skin, leaving behind a lattice of stinging marks, but I pressed on, driven by an unyielding will to survive. The creature pursued with relentless intent, its presence hauntingly inescapable, its breath chillingly close upon my neck, punctuated by a low, menacing growl that reverberated through the woods. My heart thundered within my chest. I felt its icy fingers graze my shoulder, a dreadful warning of the darkness that awaited should I falter, even momentarily. On that interminable night, adrenaline emerged as my solitary ally, fueling my desperate flight through the oppressive maw of the forest until, at last, I burst free onto the soft, forgiving grass at the edge of the tree line where the village awaited. Civilization, with all its familiar comforts and reassurances, felt transformed in my absence into something unsettlingly alien and fragile, a delicate illusion threatened by the weight of memories from what lurked beyond. In the days that followed, I found myself ensnared within a cycle of relentless reflection, my mind compulsively replaying the harrowing events of that night, each moment dissected and relived in granular detail. My efforts to recount the story were met with disbelief and skepticism, earning only dubious and worried glances from those who listened. Yet despite the doubts cast upon my tale, I understood the truth. The forest harbored secrets that transcended our tangible reality, a realm where nightmares coalesced in the twilight's hazy embrace. Despite the haunting terror that had indelibly marked my soul, a fragment of my spirit remained inexplicably entwined with that forest, bound by an unyielding desire to comprehend the unknowable. The woods had etched themselves into the very fabric of my being, their whispers now woven inseparably into my internal landscape, beckoning me with their insistent, haunting call. Perhaps one day soon, I would summon the courage required to heed their summons and return. Until that day arrived, my story would serve both as a caution and an invitation, an enduring testament to those possessing the resolve to venture into the veiled depths of shadow and silence, daring to confront the heart of darkness itself. As the radiant sun began its languid descent toward the horizon, the expansive sky transformed into a breathtaking canvas painted with strokes of deep crimson and vibrant gold. The colors blended seamlessly, creating a serene yet ominous atmosphere that wrapped itself around me like a cloak as I stood at the enigmatic brink of the Whispering Woods. This forest, shrouded in mystery and possessing an uncanny allure, had captivated imaginations for generations. An endless stream of tales circulated within our community's lore, each recounting eerie warnings meticulously preserved through the passage of time. These narratives spoke of supernatural whispers that drifted through the dense canopy like ghostly breezes and of elusive shadows that prowled and observed from the forest's impenetrable depths. Every story, woven into the rich tapestry of our heritage, was spoken in whispered tones, as though to avoid summoning the very specters said to inhabit the woodlands. The Whispering Woods had always been a source of fascination and trepidation, a place where reality seemed to blur with the supernatural. The stories passed down through generations were not just tales, they were warnings, cautionary accounts of those who had dared to venture too far into its depths and never returned. The forest was alive with secrets, its very essence intertwined with the unknown. It was a place where the line between the seen and the unseen was thin, where the whispers of the past mingled with the present, creating an atmosphere thick with mystery and intrigue. On that fateful and unforgettable evening, my insatiable curiosity surfaced as an unstoppable force, transcending any trepidation that lingered within my heart. Although I urged myself to remain prudent, a stronger yearning compelled me to explore. Armed only with a flashlight, whose beam flickered like a timid beacon in the encroaching darkness, I set foot beyond the comfort of the tree-line. Confidence, like an ill-fitting garment, hung loosely on my frame, but I pressed onwards into the expansive unknown. The path I followed was narrow and serpentine, winding deeper into the forest's enigmatic core, almost as if it sought to shield itself from any intrusive presence. With each hesitant step, the enveloping darkness grew denser, an imposing gloom that seemed to consume what sparse light my flashlight offered. The sound of crisp leaves crunching underfoot echoed through the stillness, amplifying my presence and creating the unsettling impression that the forest itself was attentively listening. Despite the warm season's embrace, a peculiar chill permeated the air, adhering to my skin like an invisible cloak in defiance of the night's warmth. It was as though the forest exhaled a breath of foreboding, its unseen tendrils clinging to me with an eerie familiarity. With every step deeper into the woods, the trees appeared to close in around me, cocooning me within their shadowy whispers. I strained to discern their murmurs, initially dismissing them as nothing more than the wind's gentle caress through the leaves. However, as I focused more intently, the whispers became clearer, a haunting symphony of nearly coherent sounds, tantalizingly close to understanding. It felt as if the very essence of the forest engaged in secretive dialogues, conversations held just beyond the edge of my comprehension. The deeper I ventured, the more palpable the forest's presence became. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the very trees were holding their breath, waiting for something to unfold. Shadows danced at the periphery of my vision, flickering in and out of existence like specters teasing the edges of reality. The forest seemed to pulse with a life of its own, its whispers growing louder, more insistent, as if urging me to uncover the secrets hidden within its depths. Initially, my courage stood firm, a steady anchor amidst uncertainty, but it began to waver when the night's silence was suddenly rent by the sound of a child's laughter, a sound both foreign and otherworldly. It was an eerie infusion of the inviting and the terrifying, its presence keenly out of place. My thoughts yanked me back to well-documented accounts, tales of innocent children who had ventured into the forest's embrace, only to vanish without a trace, consumed by the forest's unsolved mysteries. The echo of each story urged me to retreat, yet an inexplicable force drew me forward, compelling me to unearth whatever truths lay buried in the shadowed recesses of the woods. The laughter swelled, drawing closer, accompanied now by the gentle padding of footsteps encircling me, invisible yet unmistakably felt. My flashlight faltered, casting erratic and jittery shadows that seemed to mock me with sinister delight, their dark forms sneering as I battled to maintain composure. Panic surged within me, constricting my chest as a vice might hold its quarry. Yet determination overrode my fear, a stubborn resolve gripped me, an adamant refusal to turn back without unveiling the truths hidden within these legendary tales that had fueled the fires of local folklore for centuries. The forest was alive with the echoes of the past, its whispers weaving a tapestry of fear and fascination. Each step I took seemed to reverberate through the woods, as if the very ground beneath me was absorbing my presence, adding my story to the countless others that had unfolded within its boundaries. The air was charged with an energy that was both exhilarating and terrifying, a reminder that the forest was a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary coexisted in a delicate balance. Without warning, the path ceased beneath my feet, vanishing as though swallowed by the earth. I found myself standing in a small, ethereal clearing bathed in the moon's silvery glow. This clearing, an unexpected oasis of calm amidst the forest's tumult, was bordered by ancient stones laid out with deliberate precision and etched with symbols beyond my comprehension. Their presence commanded both respect and awe, as if they had served as vigilant custodians to the unfolding horrors long ago cloaked in this silent sanctuary. It was within this hallowed glade that I confronted it, a ghostly apparition materializing at the clearing's edge, emerging from the shadows. This figure towered above me, its form marked by imposing height and unsettling gauntness. Limbs appeared twisted beyond nature's intended bounds, its eyes glowing with an unearthly, internal flame. Primal terror rooted me in place, seizing control as I watched it move with a chilling grace, silent and swift, closing in with the certainty of a predator claiming its prey. Desperation ignited a fierce instinct within me, a refusal to yield to the encroaching darkness. Spinning on my heel, I fled in blind panic, diving into the forest's embrace with a reckless abandon that propelled me forward. Branches clawed and raked at my skin, leaving behind a lattice of stinging marks, but I pressed on, driven by an unyielding will to survive. The creature pursued with relentless intent, its presence hauntingly inescapable, its breath chillingly close upon my neck, punctuated by a low, menacing growl that reverberated through the woods. My heart thundered within my chest. I felt its icy fingers graze my shoulder, a dreadful warning of the darkness that awaited should I falter, even momentarily. On that interminable night, adrenaline emerged as my solitary ally, fueling my desperate flight through the oppressive maw of the forest until, at last, I burst free onto the soft, forgiving grass at the edge of the tree line where the village awaited. Civilization, with all its familiar comforts and reassurances, felt transformed in my absence into something unsettlingly alien and fragile, a delicate illusion threatened by the weight of memories from what lurked beyond. In the days that followed, I found myself ensnared within a cycle of relentless reflection, my mind compulsively replaying the harrowing events of that night, each moment dissected and relived in granular detail. My efforts to recount the story were met with disbelief and skepticism, earning only dubious and worried glances from those who listened. Yet despite the doubts cast upon my tale, I understood the truth. The forest harbored secrets that transcended our tangible reality, a realm where nightmares coalesced in the twilight's hazy embrace. Despite the haunting terror that had indelibly marked my soul, a fragment of my spirit remained inexplicably entwined with that forest, bound by an unyielding desire to comprehend the unknowable. The woods had etched themselves into the very fabric of my being, their whispers now woven inseparably into my internal landscape, beckoning me with their insistent, haunting call. Perhaps one day soon, I would summon the courage required to heed their summons and return. Until that day arrived, my story would serve both as a caution and an invitation, an enduring testament to those possessing the resolve to venture into the veiled depths of shadow and silence, daring to confront the heart of darkness itself. The echoes of those eerie whispers from that unforgettable camping trip continue to resonate within me, persisting not only in the darkness of the night, but also in the serene solitude of my introspections. What commenced as a seemingly typical adventure rapidly unraveled into a sequence of 6 profoundly disturbing narratives, merging into one collective nightmare that none among us could ever quite forget. Driven by the exuberance of youth and a relentless curiosity, we reveled in the thrill of embracing the unknown, always ready to embark on another expedition. Yet, the spectral encounters that unfolded beneath the dense, embracing canopy of the forest left us grappling with fears and visions beyond the scope of our wildest imaginations, challenging our very perceptions of reality and imagination. These experiences, vivid and unsettling, etched themselves into our memories, leaving us with a sense of unease that lingered long after the adventures had ended. Each whisper, each shadow seemed to carry with it an ancient story, a narrative of the forest that was both enchanting and terrifying, pulling us deeper into its enigmatic embrace. The forest seemed to breathe with life, its whispers growing louder and more insistent, as if urging us to delve deeper into its mysteries. We found ourselves drawn to the shadows, unable to resist the pull of the unknown, even as it filled us with dread. Our journey embarked on the first night at a scouting camp, nestled deep within the heart of the Polish wilderness. This retreat was an opportunity to reconnect with the natural world and escape the relentless cacophony and frenetic whirlwind of city life that often enveloped us in its demands. As we pitched our canvas shelters beneath a vast, sprawling sky, dazzling with innumerable stars, a profound tranquility seemed to embrace us entirely. My friend Lucy and I were entrusted with the night watch, and our laughter punctuated the stillness of the night as shadowy figures danced in the flickering firelight, accompanying our light-hearted tales. For a while, everything was idyllic. Yet, beneath this veneer of perfection, something sinister began to unfurl quietly. It started with a gentle rustling, a sound so subtle it might have seamlessly blended with the night's natural symphony. Then came the faint whispers, ominously drifting among the trees as if the forest itself were exhaling hidden secrets, secrets intended solely for the night. Nervously, we exchanged glances, initially weaving humor into the notion that it might simply be the mischievous wind, weaving its craft through the auditory landscape of the forest. However, our smiles dimmed into unease as we distinguished a shadow, an ominous, dark, wet figure, lurking just beyond the comforting glow of the embracing firelight. It vanished as swiftly as it materialized, leaving behind a chill that pierced us to our very cores and compelled us to reevaluate the boundaries between reality and imagination, between a tangible threat and our own deepest fears, forcing us to confront the unknown lurking in the shadows. This night marked the beginning of our understanding that the wilderness held more than just natural beauty. It concealed mysteries that defied explanation and demanded our respect and caution. The forest, with its towering trees and whispering winds, became a living entity, a keeper of secrets that were both alluring and terrifying, drawing us in with its enigmatic charm yet warning us with its haunting presence. It was as if the very essence of the forest had awakened, its whispers growing louder and more insistent, urging us to delve deeper into its mysteries. Our subsequent adventure transported us to the untouched vastness of Canada's ancient woods, where towering forests stretched far and wide into the horizon. Eagerly, we immersed ourselves in exploring the maze-like paths, irresistibly drawn in by the forest's mysterious allure and its whispered promises of hidden wonders. By day, the forest emerged as a serene spectacle, a breathtaking landscape basked in the warm, golden embrace of sunlight, offering a peaceful haven from the chaos of everyday existence. The tranquility of daylight provided us with a false sense of security, a temporary respite from the memories of our previous encounters. Nightfall, however, brought about a palpable transformation. As darkness descended upon the forest, we gathered once more around a crackling campfire, absorbed in the timeless act of storytelling. Josh interrupted abruptly, asserting that he had unmistakably heard his name being called from the foreboding shadows of the woods. Initially skeptical, we dismissed his claims, attributing them to his girlfriend's playful joke. However, the calls soon metamorphosed ominously into desperate, blood-curdling screams for help, utterances that soon took on a chillingly familiar cadence. We were left unnerved by the realization that the voice was undeniably Josh's, despite his unwavering presence by the campfire, highlighting a disconcerting truth. Something within the woods sought to flawlessly imitate him, endeavoring to lure us into the shadowy depths, relentlessly testing not only our bravery but the very fabric of our sanity, shaking our confidence and making us question our own senses. The forest, once a place of beauty and exploration, had become a realm of shadows and deception, where nothing could be trusted and every sound carried the weight of potential danger. The once welcoming woods now seemed to harbor a malevolent intelligence, a force that thrived on our fear and confusion, weaving a tapestry of deception that left us questioning the very essence of reality. The forest, with its vast expanse and hidden depths, became a labyrinth of shadows, where every step seemed to lead us further into a world of mystery and danger, challenging our perceptions and testing our resolve. Upon returning home, we sought comfort in the familiarity and perceived safety of our own backyard, the notion of camping there seemingly innocent yet reassuring. However, this seemingly simple decision spiraled into a baffling mystery that lingered persistently in our memories. I had painstakingly arranged a cozy night under a starlit sky with my girlfriend, Emily, striving to craft the ultimate backyard sanctuary that was both intimate and tranquil. As the night progressed, fatigue overtook me, and I drifted into a fitful slumber, only to be jolted awake and find Emily inexplicably missing. Panic seized me as I searched frantically through the eerily silent and deserted backyard, my heart pounding with each agonizing moment. My frantic search led me indoors, where I found her, as if nothing untoward had occurred, inexplicably asleep on the couch. When she awoke, Emily insisted she had no recollection of leaving the confines of the tent. Yet, something about her eyes unnerved me. A peculiar shadow lingered there, as if something unseen, intangible, had brushed against her spirit, imparting an otherworldly presence that left a mark unseen yet deeply felt, a silent reminder of the mysterious forces at play. This incident, though occurring in the comfort of our home, echoed the unsettling experiences of our previous adventures, reinforcing the notion that these mysterious forces were not confined to the wilderness but could reach us anywhere, challenging our sense of safety and normalcy. It was as if the very essence of the wilderness had seeped into our lives, blurring the lines between the natural and the supernatural, the known and the unknown, leaving us with a lingering sense of unease that permeated every aspect of our existence. The shadows that had once haunted us in the wilderness now seemed to follow us home, their whispers echoing in the corners of our minds, reminding us that the unknown was never far away. Each disquieting encounter seemed to point toward an unfathomable and eerily unnerving phenomenon, a creature or force, perhaps, thriving upon the intricate threads of fear, silently lurking and watching from the shaded alcoves of our collective consciousness. It felt as though we had inadvertently unveiled an ancient enigma, one cloaked in darkness and malevolent intent, a sinister presence preying upon unsuspecting campers, greedily consuming their deepest anxieties. These experiences left us with an overwhelming, enduring sense of dread, as if we had inadvertently ventured into a realm beyond our comprehension, where dark forces quietly resided, obscured within the vast, untamed wilderness, waiting for the opportune moment to reveal themselves. The patterns of these encounters suggested an intelligence, a strategic manipulation of our fears that left us feeling vulnerable and exposed, as if we were pawns in a game we could not understand. The wilderness, with its infinite beauty and allure, had become a theater of shadows, where unseen actors played out a drama of fear and intrigue, leaving us as mere spectators in a story that defied explanation. It was as if the very fabric of reality had been altered, leaving us to navigate a world where the boundaries between the known and the unknown were forever blurred, challenging our understanding and testing our resolve. Reflecting on these harrowing incidents, I am more convinced than ever that we encountered something that defies any logical understanding, a sinister presence, veiled and concealed within the wild, always lurking, ever waiting. This unnerving memory endures as a haunting reminder in my thoughts, compelling me to caution all adventurers who seek the thrill of the unknown, never relinquish your guard under the cloak of nightfall. The darkness conceals more than just the absence of light. It harbors the power to echo back your deepest fears with chilling clarity, inexorably drawing you into its entwining mysteries, enigmas that might be better left undisturbed. The wilderness, despite its infinite beauty and alluring enchantment, harbors secrets, dark, menacing secrets that wait silently and continuously for the unwary to wander too close. Within the depths of its shadowed embrace, the whispers grow ever more deceptive, testing the resolve of all who dare venture beyond the safety and warmth of the firelight's reassuring glow, urging caution and respect for the unknown. As I continue to ponder these events, I am reminded of the delicate balance between curiosity and caution, adventure and safety, and the ever-present need to respect the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding, hidden in the shadows of the world around us. The wilderness, with its vastness and mystery, remains a place of wonder and fear, a realm where the boundaries of reality and imagination blur, leaving us to navigate its enigmatic depths with both awe and trepidation, forever changed by the whispers that continue to echo in the wilderness of our minds. The shadows that once haunted us in the wilderness now seem to follow us wherever we go, their whispers echoing in the corners of our minds, reminding us that the unknown is never far away, urging us to tread carefully and respect the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. I never imagined that a simple camping trip could turn into a nightmare that would haunt me for years. My name is Ethan, and this is the story of how I lost my brother, David, to a monstrous entity known as the Candleheart, and how I became its next target. The memories of those days remain vivid, etched into my mind as if they happened yesterday. Every detail, every emotion, every sound still echoes in my thoughts, refusing to fade away. It all began 2 years ago, shortly after our father's passing. The grief was still fresh, a heavy burden that weighed on both of us. David and I decided to go camping in the dense woods near our childhood home, hoping to relive the fond memories of our youth. We thought the escape into nature would provide solace, a temporary refuge from the complexities of the world and the pain of our loss. The forest had always been a place of peace for us, a sanctuary where we could forget our troubles and immerse ourselves in the beauty of nature. Little did we know, it would soon become a place of terror, a setting for a nightmare that would change our lives forever. The first day of our trip was filled with laughter and nostalgia as we set up our tent and gathered firewood. We reminisced about the carefree days of our childhood, playing hide and seek among the trees and listening to the gentle rustle of leaves. The sun filtered through the canopy, casting dappled shadows on the ground, and the air was filled with the scent of pine and earth. As night fell, we sat by the campfire, sharing stories and roasting marshmallows, feeling the warmth of the flames against the cool night air. The crackling fire provided a comforting glow, a beacon of warmth and safety in the encroaching darkness. It was then that we first noticed something strange, a flickering light in the distance, deeper within the forest. It was faint at first, a mere glimmer that danced on the edge of our vision, but it grew more pronounced as the night wore on. Curiosity got the better of us, and we decided to investigate. Armed with only a flashlight, we ventured into the woods, the darkness closing in around us. The path was narrow and winding, the trees towering above like silent sentinels. Each step seemed to echo in the stillness, a reminder of how alone we were in that vast expanse of wilderness. As we drew closer to the source of the light, an uneasy feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. The air grew colder, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. The usual sounds of the night, crickets chirping, leaves rustling, had vanished, leaving an eerie silence that heightened our apprehension. Suddenly, we stumbled upon a clearing, and there it was, a towering figure, seemingly human, yet not quite. It stood motionless, holding a lantern that emitted an eerie, flickering glow. The creature's eyes were hollow, and its face was obscured by shadows, but I could feel its gaze piercing through me. It was as if the very essence of fear had taken form, and I was powerless to look away. The light from its lantern cast grotesque shadows that seemed to writhe and twist, creating a surreal tableau of terror. Before I could react, David was seized by the creature. Its long, sinewy arms wrapped around him, pulling him closer to the flickering light. Panic surged through me as I shouted for him to run, but it was too late. David was dragged into the ground, swallowed by the earth as if it had opened up to claim him. The sight was surreal, a nightmare unfolding before my eyes, and I was helpless to stop it. His screams echoed in my ears, a haunting reminder of my failure to protect him. I ran. I ran faster than I ever thought possible, my heart pounding in my chest, my mind a whirlwind of fear and disbelief. The forest blurred around me, branches clawing at my skin as I fled. I didn't stop until I reached the safety of our campsite, collapsing in exhaustion and terror. The fire had died down, and the darkness seemed to press in from all sides, a suffocating reminder of what I had just witnessed. I lay there, shivering and alone, unable to comprehend the horror of what had just transpired. The next morning, I searched for David, calling his name until my voice was hoarse, but there was no trace of him. It was as if he had vanished from existence. The authorities conducted a search but found nothing. They chalked it up to a tragic accident, a young man lost in the wilderness. But I knew better. I knew that something unnatural had taken him, something beyond comprehension. The official explanations offered no comfort, no closure, only a hollow emptiness that gnawed at my soul. 2 years passed, and the memory of that night never left me. I became obsessed with finding answers, scouring every piece of folklore and legend I could find about the Candleheart. I delved into ancient texts and whispered tales, seeking any clue that might lead me to the truth. But all I uncovered were fragmented tales of a creature that lured souls with its light, a harbinger of despair. It was a puzzle with missing pieces, a mystery that refused to be solved. Then, one fateful day, a package arrived at my doorstep. It was a small, unmarked box, and inside, to my horror, was David's mask, a handcrafted piece he had worn during our childhood games. The sight of it sent chills down my spine, and I knew that the Candleheart had not forgotten me. It was a message, a reminder that the past was not yet laid to rest. The mask was a symbol of innocence lost, a tangible connection to a time when life was simpler and happier. The nights that followed were filled with restless sleep and haunting dreams. I could feel its presence lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. I was determined not to fall victim to the same fate as David. I had to confront the Candleheart, to end this nightmare once and for all. The fear that had once paralyzed me now fueled my resolve. I knew that I had to face the darkness, to confront the entity that had taken so much from me. Armed with a lantern of my own, I returned to the forest, retracing the steps that had led to our encounter. The familiar path seemed different now, haunted by memories and shadows. The trees whispered secrets, and the wind carried echoes of the past. As darkness fell, I found myself once again in the clearing, the air thick with anticipation. The Candleheart emerged from the shadows, its flickering light casting eerie patterns on the trees. This time, I was ready. I held my lantern high, its steady glow cutting through the darkness. The creature hesitated, its hollow eyes fixated on the light. I could feel its power waning, the flickering of its lantern growing weaker. The air was charged with tension, a silent battle of wills between us. I could sense its confusion, its uncertainty, as if it recognized that I was no longer the frightened boy it had encountered before. With a surge of courage, I stepped forward, confronting the entity that had taken my brother. The Candleheart let out a mournful wail, its form unraveling like smoke in the wind. In that moment, I understood that it was not a creature of malice, but a lost soul seeking release. It was a guardian of the forgotten, a keeper of the night. Its light was a beacon, a call to those who had strayed from the path. As the first light of dawn broke through the trees, the Candleheart faded away, leaving behind only the soft glow of my lantern. I knew then that David was truly gone, but his spirit was finally at peace. The forest was silent once more, a sanctuary restored. The sun's rays filtered through the leaves, casting a warm, golden light that dispelled the shadows of the night. I returned home, the weight of the past lifted from my shoulders. The forest no longer held the same allure it once did, but I had found closure. The Candleheart would trouble me no more, and I could finally begin to heal. The journey had been long and fraught with fear, but it had also been a path to understanding and acceptance. I had faced my demons and emerged stronger, more resilient. Though the memory of that night will forever linger in my mind, I have learned to embrace the light, to cherish the moments with those I love, and to never forget the brother I lost to the flickering shadow. The experience has taught me the value of courage and the power of the human spirit to overcome even the darkest of fears. It has reminded me that even in the midst of despair, there is hope, and that the bonds of family and love are unbreakable. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. On a seemingly ordinary afternoon, the sky was painted a monotonous gray, a color that seemed to mirror the predictability of my day. It was one of those days where nothing seemed likely to disrupt the continuity of mundane events. Yet, fate had other plans for me, a twist I could never have anticipated. My phone buzzed with a message that shattered the tranquility of my routine existence. This message was not from someone I knew. The number was unfamiliar, a strange and unforeseen entry into my digital space. As I opened the message, the atmosphere around me turned cold, as if trying to enforce a stillness in which this message could truly resonate. The words stared back at me, appearing almost alien, begging for interpretation. "Beware the shadow voice," it proclaimed, carrying an air of profound mystery and foreboding. My initial reaction was one of skepticism. I laughed nervously, reasoning it away as an ill-conceived prank. In my conviction, I had neither adversaries nor unresolved conflicts to inspire such targeted words. Surely, no one would aim such disconcerting messages at me without reason, right? Nevertheless, as the sun gave way to the nightly dominion, this unsettling note was only the prologue to a cascade of communications. Each message that followed seemed heavier, imbued with a sense of dread that grew deeper with every new notification. The days that followed were a blur, each one blending into the next as the messages continued their relentless assault on my peace of mind. I found myself trapped in a cycle of anxiety and anticipation, waiting for the next notification to deliver its cryptic message. The shadow voice seemed to know me better than I knew myself, its words cutting through the facade I had carefully constructed over the years. It was as if this mysterious correspondent had access to the deepest recesses of my mind, unearthing fears and insecurities I had long buried. The messages spoke of choices and consequences, of paths not taken and roads yet to be traveled. They hinted at a destiny I could not escape, a fate that was drawing ever closer with each passing day. As night after night unfurled, my once unshakable walls of tranquility started to falter. Despite bodily exhaustion urging me towards slumber, a battle raged within my mind, a battle I could not ignore. I lay in bed, my eyes refusing respite, while my brain churned with questions that refused to dissipate. Who was this spectral figure behind these writings? What did this mysterious voice want from me? The cryptic nature of their messages hinted at choices, consequences, and ominous crossroads ready to plunge me into profound darkness. More disturbingly, they spoke to the shadows of my past, murmurs of secrets I had thought permanently eclipsed from memory, facets of my life buried, hidden even from those closest to me. The perception that this nameless writer could perceive layers of my being, and was pulling ancient fears into the light, was a thought I couldn't dislodge. Each day's passing seemed to invite chaos ever closer, as the structure of my familiar world began to unravel. My work, a fortress of my professional life, felt the tremors most acutely. The once steady flow of focus that defined my career began to waver, with even straightforward tasks becoming insurmountable. It was not long before my boss perceived these cracks in my performance, a stark deviation from my usual competence. My mind, it seemed, had detached, drifting further into uncharted waters. Inevitably, the foundation of my employment crumbled, casting me adrift in uncertainty. Friends, who previously had been my anchors in joy and solace, now seemed distant. Their laughter rang hollow. Conversations once resonant now echoed in dissonance, as though I had stepped into a dimension disconnected from reality, a waking nightmare from which I could not break free. The frequency of these messages increased, each barrage arriving with virulent intensity that dispelled any fantasies of simply ignoring them. The urgency they carried encroached deeply into my consciousness, their insistent warnings of an inevitable decision, a path that seemed to be drawing me inescapably forward. Trapped in this tide, I found my own life slipping beyond control, each message twisting the familiar into something strange and distant. Efforts to dismiss these uncanny correspondents as mere figments, trickster shadows crafted to deceive, proved futile. They burrowed insistently into my psyche, intertwining themselves with my thoughts and undermining any attempts I made to restore peace. Then came that unforgettable evening, ensconced within the cozy elegance of a neighborhood cafe. The ambience that usually provided comfort felt strangely cold against the rising storm within me. Again, the phone's alert pierced the calm, the notification springing to life with dreaded familiarity. The latest message bore words that resonated with chilling clarity. The time has come. My chest tightened under the weight of anxiety pressing down hard, eyes instinctively scanning the room for any telltale signs of presence. Yet all I saw were the ordinary figures of fellow patrons, the comforting clink of conversation and cups contrasting sharply against the internal chaos. In that moment of buzzing serenity, a realization planted itself firmly in my consciousness. The time had arrived for confrontation. I could no longer defer addressing these provocations. Whether the shadow voice hailed from an external reality or was conjured from my own fears, engagement was now imperative. Answers seemed unlikely to be found in the world beyond. They had to be sought within, beneath layers of introspection and residual shadows. Ceaseless messages opened doors to my forgotten past, forcing me to acknowledge decisions that had woven the fabric of my life's current tapestry. In them, I saw a fragmented portrayal of myself, the public debonair facade and the private shadow I urgently strived to come to terms with, yet feared to face. There I sat, enveloped in the refuge of the cafe's quiet, certainty wrapped around me like a shroud. The shadow voice had never been an external antagonist throwing out threats from the void. It was, and had always been, the concentrated embodiment of my deepest fears and unresolved regrets, a shadow woven into the fabric of my consciousness for far too long. I reached an undeniable understanding. Attempting to escape from fate was never within my power. Instead, making the choice of how to confront it was mine alone. I could capitulate, let the shadow engulf me, become another whisper in its eternal darkness, or I could remain steadfast, reclaiming the narrative of my life and forging fresh paths unbound from past darkness. Ultimately, the power to decide rested within me. As I prepared to leave the comforting confines of the cafe, an unanticipated peace fell over me, like a gentle embrace steadying my resolve. Just as mysteriously as they began, the messages ceased, their haunting purposes now served. The road ahead assuredly still held challenges and uncertainties, yet I found within myself a preparedness, an emboldened readiness to face whatever specters lay in ambush from the shadows. The convoluted fellowship with the shadow voice had excavated the depths of my inner being, furnishing me with strength to tackle entrenched fears and uncover the truth of my identity. It had transitioned from an escapade to a confrontation. As I stepped into the night, it was no longer about evasion, but an embrace of a clearer essence of my being, shaping glimpses of someone I was always destined to become. The darkness that once loomed as forbidding and impenetrable was transmuted. It had evolved from being an entity solely to be feared into a significant passage of understanding and self-acceptance, profound personal growth. Found within this newfound reconciliation was a light, a tender beacon of hope cultivated through understanding, guiding me into an ever-expanding horizon of sustained shadows. The days that followed were a blur, each one blending into the next as the messages continued their relentless assault on my peace of mind. I found myself trapped in a cycle of anxiety and anticipation, waiting for the next notification to deliver its cryptic message. The shadow voice seemed to know me better than I knew myself, its words cutting through the facade I had carefully constructed over the years. It was as if this mysterious correspondent had access to the deepest recesses of my mind, unearthing fears and insecurities I had long buried. The messages spoke of choices and consequences, of paths not taken and roads yet to be traveled. They hinted at a destiny I could not escape, a fate that was drawing ever closer with each passing day. As night after night unfurled, my once unshakable walls of tranquility started to falter. Despite bodily exhaustion urging me toward slumber, a battle raged within my mind, a battle I could not ignore. I lay in bed, my eyes refusing respite, while my brain churned with questions that refused to dissipate. Who was this spectral figure behind these writings? What did this mysterious voice want from me? The cryptic nature of their messages hinted at choices, consequences, and ominous crossroads ready to plunge me into profound darkness. More disturbingly, they spoke to the shadows of my past, murmurs of secrets I had thought permanently eclipsed from memory, facets of my life buried, hidden even from those closest to me. The perception that this nameless writer could perceive layers of my being and was pulling ancient fears into the light was a thought I couldn't dislodge. Each day's passing seemed to invite chaos ever closer as the structure of my familiar world began to unravel. My work, a fortress of my professional life, felt the tremors most acutely. The once steady flow of focus that defined my career began to waver, with even straightforward tasks becoming insurmountable. It was not long before my boss perceived these cracks in my performance, a stark deviation from my usual competence. My mind, it seemed, had detached, drifting further into uncharted waters. Inevitably, the foundation of my employment crumbled, casting me adrift in uncertainty. Friends, who previously had been my anchors in joy and solace, now seemed distant. Their laughter rang hollow. Conversations once resonant now echoed in dissonance, as though I had stepped into a dimension disconnected from reality, a waking nightmare from which I could not break free. The frequency of these messages increased, each barrage arriving with virulent intensity that dispelled any fantasies of simply ignoring them. The urgency they carried encroached deeply into my consciousness, their insistent warnings of an inevitable decision, a path that seemed to be drawing me inescapably forward. Trapped in this tide, I found my own life slipping beyond control, each message twisting the familiar into something strange and distant. Efforts to dismiss these uncanny correspondents as mere figments, trickster shadows crafted to deceive, proved futile. They burrowed insistently into my psyche, intertwining themselves with my thoughts and undermining any attempts I made to restore peace. Then came that unforgettable evening, ensconced within the cozy elegance of a neighborhood cafe. The ambience that usually provided comfort felt strangely cold against the rising storm within me. Again, the phone's alert pierced the calm, the notification springing to life with dreaded familiarity. The latest message bore words that resonated with chilling clarity. The time has come. My chest tightened under the weight of anxiety pressing down hard, eyes instinctively scanning the room for any telltale signs of presence. Yet all I saw were the ordinary figures of fellow patrons, the comforting clink of conversation and cups contrasting sharply against the internal chaos. In that moment of buzzing serenity, a realization planted itself firmly in my consciousness. The time had arrived for confrontation. I could no longer defer addressing these provocations. Whether the shadow voice hailed from an external reality or was conjured from my own fears, engagement was now imperative. Answers seemed unlikely to be found in the world beyond. They had to be sought within, beneath layers of introspection and residual shadows. Ceaseless messages opened doors to my forgotten past, forcing me to acknowledge decisions that had woven the fabric of my life's current tapestry. In them, I saw a fragmented portrayal of myself, the public debonair facade and the private shadow I urgently strived to come to terms with, yet feared to face. There I sat, enveloped in the refuge of the cafe's quiet, certainty wrapped around me like a shroud. The shadow voice had never been an external antagonist throwing out threats from the void. It was, and had always been, the concentrated embodiment of my deepest fears and unresolved regrets, a shadow woven into the fabric of my consciousness for far too long. I reached an undeniable understanding. Attempting to escape from fate was never within my power. Instead, making the choice of how to confront it was mine alone. I could capitulate, let the shadow engulf me, become another whisper in its eternal darkness, or I could remain steadfast, reclaiming the narrative of my life and forging fresh paths unbound from past darkness. Ultimately, the power to decide rested within me. As I prepared to leave the comforting confines of the cafe, an unanticipated peace fell over me, like a gentle embrace steadying my resolve. Just as mysteriously as they began, the messages ceased, their haunting purposes now served. The road ahead assuredly still held challenges and uncertainties, yet I found within myself a preparedness, an emboldened readiness to face whatever specters lay in ambush from the shadows. The convoluted fellowship with the shadow voice had excavated the depths of my inner being, furnishing me with strength to tackle entrenched fears and uncover the truth of my identity. It had transitioned from an escapade to a confrontation. As I stepped into the night, it was no longer about evasion, but an embrace of a clearer essence of my being, shaping glimpses of someone I was always destined to become. The darkness that once loomed as forbidding and impenetrable was transmuted. It had evolved from being an entity solely to be feared into a significant passage of understanding and self-acceptance, profound personal growth. Found within this newfound reconciliation was a light, a tender beacon of hope cultivated through understanding, guiding me into an ever-expanding horizon of sustained shadows. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. I always thought my family was like any other, with its quirks and traditions that made it unique yet familiar. Our gatherings were filled with laughter, stories, and the warmth of shared memories, creating a tapestry of experiences that I cherish deeply. Each family member brought their own stories, tales of the past that interwove with the present, forming a rich narrative that defined who we were. These gatherings were more than just events, they were rituals that reinforced our bonds, creating a sense of belonging that was both comforting and grounding. We would gather around the table, sharing meals that were as much a part of our tradition as the stories themselves. The aroma of my grandmother's cooking would fill the air, mingling with the sound of clinking glasses and the gentle hum of conversation. It was a symphony of senses that enveloped us, creating a cocoon of familiarity and love. Each dish was prepared with love, each recipe passed down through generations, adding layers of history to our meals. The clinking of cutlery and the gentle murmur of voices created a soundtrack to our lives, a melody of connection and continuity. But it wasn't until my great-grandmother's birthday visit that I realized how wrong I was about the normalcy I had always taken for granted. As I sat with her in her cozy living room, surrounded by the comforting smell of her old books and the gentle ticking of the antique clock on the mantel, the shadows of the past seemed to gather around us, drawn by the story she was about to tell, a story that would change my understanding of our family's history forever. Her home was a sanctuary of memories, each object a testament to the life she had lived, the experiences she had gathered over the years. The walls were lined with photographs, capturing moments frozen in time, smiles that seemed to echo through the years. The soft glow of the lamp cast a warm light, creating an atmosphere of intimacy and trust. I was 10, she began, her voice a soft murmur that seemed to pull me into her memories, wrapping around me like a warm blanket. Her words painted vivid pictures in my mind, transporting me to a time long before my own. Her storytelling was a portal to the past, each word a brushstroke on the canvas of history. I could almost see the scene she described, feel the emotion she conveyed with such clarity and depth. Her voice, though aged, carried the weight of the years, the wisdom of a life lived fully. It was my birthday, just like today. But that year, something happened that changed everything for me and for our family. Her eyes, usually so full of warmth and kindness, clouded over with the memory of that distant day, as if she were looking through a window into the past. Her gaze seemed to focus on something beyond the walls of the room, something only she could see. The room seemed to fade away as she spoke, leaving only the vivid imagery of her recollections. The atmosphere shifted, becoming charged with the weight of her memories, as if the very air held its breath in anticipation. Her words were a bridge to another time, a connection to the events that had shaped her life. The day started like any other birthday. There were presents wrapped in colorful paper, a cake with 10 candles, and laughter that filled the rooms of our home. My mother had made my favorite meal, and my siblings and I had spent the afternoon playing games and enjoying the simple pleasures of childhood. But as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the walls, a strange sound echoed through the house, a distant ringing, like a bell, clear and persistent, cutting through the evening air like a knife. At first, we thought it was part of the celebration, perhaps a neighbor's way of joining in the fun or some kind of prank. We laughed it off, attributing it to the whims of the wind or the playful spirit of the day. The sound seemed innocuous at first, just another part of the background noise of life. It was easy to dismiss it as nothing more than a peculiar coincidence, a quirk of the evening that would soon pass. We continued with our festivities, allowing the sound to blend into the symphony of celebration, thinking little of it. The laughter continued, the games went on, and the ringing became just another note in the melody of the day. But as the ringing persisted, a sense of unease settled over us, growing stronger with each chime, like a creeping fog seeping into the corners of our minds. My father and older siblings decided to investigate. Their curiosity piqued and their protective instincts awakened, leaving me and my younger brother in the safety of the house, or so we thought. They never came back, my great-grandmother said, her voice breaking slightly as she relived the moment, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Her hands trembled slightly as she spoke, the weight of the memory pressing heavily upon her. The room seemed to grow colder as she continued, the shadows deepening with the gravity of her words. The warmth of the room seemed to dissipate, replaced by a chill that seeped into my bones. Her voice was a thread connecting the present to the past, weaving a tapestry of emotions that enveloped us both. One by one, they stepped out into the night, following the sound, and one by one, they vanished into the darkness, leaving only silence behind. A silence so profound it seemed to echo in my very soul. Left alone in the house, the ringing grew louder, more insistent, filling the space with its eerie melody, a haunting tune that seemed to resonate with the very walls. I huddled in the corner of the living room, clutching a blanket around my shoulders for comfort, trying to ward off the chill that had settled deep within me. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows lengthening as the night deepened, and I felt the weight of fear pressing down on me like never before, a heavy cloak that threatened to smother me. The house, once filled with joy and laughter, now felt like a stranger, its familiar corners transformed into something ominous. The very air seemed to thicken with dread, each breath a struggle against the encroaching terror. I felt isolated in that silence, as if the walls were closing in, each shadow a reminder of the unknown lurking just beyond my sight. The once comforting home had become a labyrinth of fear, each corner a potential hiding place for the unknown. I was so scared, she admitted, tears glistening in her eyes, reflecting the dim light of the room, casting tiny rainbows on the worn carpet. Her voice wavered, a testament to the fear that had gripped her so many years ago. The memory of that fear seemed to linger in the air, a palpable presence that connected her past to my present. It was as if the room itself held the memory of that fear, the walls echoing with the silent screams of the past. Her vulnerability was laid bare, her emotions a raw testament to the impact of that night. But I knew I had to be brave. I couldn't let the fear consume me, not if I wanted to survive. Not if I wanted to honor the memory of those who had been lost. It wasn't long before the source of the ringing revealed itself. A figure appeared at the window, its face obscured by darkness, but the faint outline of a bell could be seen swinging from its neck. The sound was hypnotic, almost soothing in its rhythm, yet filled with an unspoken menace that sent chills down my spine, a cold finger tracing its way along my skin. The figure seemed to be both part of the night and apart from it, an enigma wrapped in shadows. Its presence was both a promise and a threat, a duality that defied understanding. It was as if the darkness itself had taken form, a manifestation of the fears that had haunted me since the ringing began. The figure's presence was a paradox, a blend of comfort and terror that defied explanation. I hid, my great-grandmother continued, her voice dropping to a whisper as if the figure might still be listening, as if speaking too loudly might summon it back. Her eyes darted to the corners of the room, as if expecting the shadows to come alive once more. Her fear was infectious, a reminder of the vulnerability that lay beneath the surface of our everyday lives. It was a fear that transcended time, connecting her past to my present, a reminder of the fragility of our existence. Her words were a lifeline, a connection to the emotions that had shaped her life and now shaped mine. In the small cupboard under the stairs, I crouched, trying to make myself as small and invisible as possible, willing myself to disappear into the shadows. I could hear it moving through the house, the bell ringing with each step it took, marking its presence with that haunting sound, a sound that seemed to echo in my very bones. Her voice dropped to an even softer whisper, barely audible above the ticking of the clock. Her words were like a secret confession, a truth too terrible to speak aloud. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the conclusion of her tale. The silence was deafening, a void that seemed to swallow all sound, leaving only the echo of her words. Her story was a testament to the power of memory, the way it can shape our lives and connect us to the past. When it finally opened the cupboard door, I thought it was the end. But instead of harm, it simply looked at me, its eyes reflecting a sadness I couldn't comprehend, a sorrow that seemed to reach out to me, wrapping around me like a shroud. The figure leaned closer, the bell's chime growing softer, almost a lullaby that seemed to wrap around me, a gentle melody that belied its sinister nature. Its presence was both comforting and terrifying, a paradox that left me breathless. The air seemed to shimmer with the tension of the moment, a fragile balance between fear and understanding. It was as if the very fabric of reality had shifted, leaving me suspended between two worlds, one of fear and one of understanding. The figure's presence was a reminder of the complexity of life, the way it can hold both terror and beauty in the same moment. Remember, it seemed to say, never ignore the warnings, for they are given for a reason that you must never forget. With that, it turned and disappeared into the night, the ringing fading into silence as if it had never been, leaving behind only the memory of its presence. My family never returned, and I was left to carry the weight of that night alone, a burden that would shape the rest of my life, a shadow that would follow me always. The echoes of that night lingered in the corners of my mind, a constant reminder of what had been lost. The silence that followed was a void, a space that could never be filled. It was a silence that spoke volumes, a testament to the absence that now defined my existence. The loss was a constant presence, a reminder of the fragility of life and the impact of that night. But I learned something important, my great-grandmother said, her voice regaining its strength and resolve, a steely determination that shone through her words. Her eyes met mine, filled with a fierce intensity that belied her years. Her words were a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable loss, we can find the strength to carry on. It was a lesson that transcended time, a truth that resonated with the core of my being. Her strength was a beacon, a guiding light that illuminated the path forward. In the face of fear, we must hold on to hope and courage. It's the only way to survive and to honor those we have lost, to keep their memory alive in our hearts. As I listened to her tale, I felt a chill run down my spine, a cold realization that this story was not just a part of her past, but a part of our shared legacy, a legacy that I was now a part of. The story seemed too fantastical to be true, yet the sincerity in her eyes told me otherwise, convincing me of its truth, a truth that I could not deny. I realized then that our family was bound by more than just blood. We were connected by a shared legacy of mystery and resilience, a bond that transcended time and space, a bond that would endure beyond the confines of this world. This realization was both a burden and a gift, a responsibility to carry forward the lessons of the past. It was a legacy that demanded acknowledgement, a truth that required acceptance. The story was a thread that connected us, a reminder of the strength that lay within us all. The whispering bells, as my great-grandmother called them, were a reminder that danger often comes with a warning that must be heeded, a warning that could not be ignored. And though fear may try to claim us, it is our hope and courage that will see us through the darkest of nights, guiding us toward the light of a new dawn, a dawn filled with promise and the possibility of redemption. Her story was a beacon, a guiding light that would illuminate the path forward, a path that I now understood was mine to walk. This legacy was a testament to the strength of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the face of darkness, we can find our way to the light. It was a call to action, a challenge to embrace the unknown with courage and resolve. The story was a testament to the power of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is always a path forward. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. I never considered myself one to believe in the supernatural. Growing up in the city, far removed from tales of haunted houses or spectral apparitions, ghost stories were nothing more than entertainment to me. That was until I discovered Pinewood Manor, a house shrouded in legend and fear. The manor sat abandoned at the end of Ash Lane, a grand estate whose splendor had long since faded. Once a symbol of wealth and prosperity, it now stood as a monument to decay and neglect. The townsfolk whispered of curses, of tragedies that befell those who dared to claim it as their home. Despite the stories, or perhaps because of them, I found myself inexplicably drawn to the place. I first learned about Pinewood Manor from an old newspaper article while researching local history. The article detailed a series of unfortunate events that seemed to plague the residents. Newlyweds had spent only one night there before fleeing in terror, their hair turned white with fright. A young woman who had taken up residence was found dead in what appeared to be a tragic accident, though many suspected foul play. One of the most chilling reports told of a doctor, whose practice was poised to open in the manor, mysteriously dying just days before his grand opening. For weeks, I could not shake the feeling that there was more to the manor's story, something waiting to be uncovered. Whatever lurked in its shadows called out to me, urging me to explore its hallways and discover its secrets. One autumn afternoon, curiosity getting the better of me, I decided to visit the manor. I enlisted two friends, Elliot, a fellow history enthusiast, and Laura, who had a penchant for the paranormal, to join me. With a camera slung over my shoulder and flashlights in hand, we set off down Ash Lane, our apprehension growing with each step. The manor loomed larger as we approached, its once white facade gray with the years. Ivy clung to its sides like clawed fingers, and windows, some shattered, stared down at us like vacant eyes. I felt a chill brush against my skin, a cold breath from the past eager to greet its guests. "Are you sure about this?" Elliot asked, breaking the silence. I nodded, trying to quell the nervous energy bubbling within me. Laura shot me a reassuring smile, though her eyes betrayed a hint of trepidation. The door creaked ominously as we pushed it open, revealing an interior frozen in time. Dust hung in the air, disturbed by our arrival, and the smell of mildew was overwhelming. I felt the weight of the manor's history upon us, pressing down in a suffocating embrace. We stepped into what must have been a grand foyer. An elaborate chandelier hung precariously from the ceiling, its crystals dulled by neglect. Faded portraits of stern-faced ancestors lined the walls, their eyes seeming to follow us as we moved. As we made our way through the rooms, a library filled with dusty tomes, a dining room with a long-abandoned feast, we began to hear the stories come alive in the quiet murmur of the manor. It was as if the very walls were alive with the whispers of the past, echoing tales of joy and sorrow, celebration and despair. The first real sign that something was amiss came as we entered the drawing room. The air grew colder, and we could see our breath mist in the light of our flashlights. Laura shivered beside me. "Do you feel that?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Elliot nodded, his eyes scanning the room for any rational explanation. The windows were intact, the doors closed tight, yet the chill persisted. That's when we heard it, a soft giggle, almost childlike. It floated through the air, teasing our senses, making it impossible to pin down its source. I turned, trying to catch a glimpse of the prankster, but found only shadows. Shadows that seemed to shift and dance just beyond the edge of light. "Hello?" I called, more out of reflex than expectation. Silence. Then, more giggling, trailing away like a mischievous ghost hiding just out of sight. "No need to be afraid," I said, more to reassure myself than anyone or anything else. Leaving the drawing room behind, we moved upstairs. The stairs creaked under our weight, each step a protest against intrusion. The upper corridors stretched out before us, an endless maze of doors and hallways. A sudden crash echoed from down the hall, like a picture falling from the wall or a door slamming shut. We jumped, our nerves already frayed. The three of us exchanged glances, then followed the sound, each step heavier with dread. At the end of the corridor, we found a door slightly ajar. I hesitated before pushing it open, revealing a nursery. Toys lay scattered about, a rocking chair moved gently, as if caught by a breeze unseen. The sensation of being watched was palpable, the hairs on the back of my neck standing at attention. Here, those whispered tales of tragedy felt all too real. The sense of loss was overwhelming, permeating every corner of this forgotten room. I crouched beside the chair, trying to discern its secrets, fingers brushing against something cold and metallic, an old rattle. I picked it up, examining it. Suddenly, the room darkened, shadows creeping in with the swiftness of nightfall. The chair ceased its gentle sway and stood still, but the air felt charged, static dancing on my skin. "What do you think happened here?" Elliot asked, voice tight. I wondered aloud whether the spirits of the past still lingered, trapped by unfinished business or a malevolent force that refused to let them go. Lara's earlier bravado had faded, her usual skepticism now shadowed by unease. As we descended, the giggle returned, now accompanied by the faint tinkling of a music box playing a lullaby, its notes warped by time and neglect. The sound pulled us toward the parlor where another discovery awaited. In the center of the room lay a diary, its pages flayed open as if eager to share their tale. I reached for it, the leather cracked and faded beneath my fingers. The entry spoke of the manor's final resident, a woman whose loneliness had driven her to madness. Her words scrawled chaotically, a glimpse into her unraveling mind. She wrote of shadows that moved, whispers in the walls, eyes that watched her in the dead of night. A sudden sense of vertigo overwhelmed me. I staggered, Elliot's hand steadying me. It was as if I could feel her despair, her terror seeping through the pages and into my soul. I closed the diary, the chill of the manor settling deeper into my bones. We shouldn't stay much longer, Laura suggested, echoing the sentiment that had begun gnawing at the back of my mind. Yet, despite the rising unease, a strange compulsion urged me to uncover the manor's secrets, to bring light to the darkness that had consumed its history. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the manor took on a different character. It was no longer a house, but a living entity, its pulse intertwined with ours. We lingered in uncertainty, the walls seeming to shift and breathe, harboring the shadows that watched our every move. Elliot set up the camera in a corner of the parlor, hoping to capture whatever it was that haunted the manor. "Maybe we'll catch something," he murmured, though his voice lacked conviction. It was then that the laughter returned, louder and more pronounced. We turned, flashlights sweeping across the room, revealing only emptiness. A gust of icy wind swept through, extinguishing the light in an instant. We stood in darkness, fear knotting in our guts, each breath echoing like a silent scream. "Let's go," Elliot urged, but I hesitated. My heart raced, my mind torn between flight and the inexplicable urge to stay, to know. Something brushed past me, cold and fleeting, barely there yet undeniably real. "Did you feel that?" Laura gasped, her own fear mirroring mine. Before I could respond, something else caught my attention, a soft melody, drifting from nowhere and everywhere at once. I turned toward it, the sound pulling me further inside myself, echoing in the hollow chambers of my heart. I realized we were no longer alone. Shadowy figures began to take shape in the corners of the room, bereft of features but filled with presence. They surrounded us, silent witnesses to our intrusion, each a guardian of the stories they'd held close for so many years. Panic surged, my instincts screaming to escape. Just as Elliot grabbed my arm, ready to flee, a voice as clear as day whispered close to my ear, only a single word: "Stay." The sheer force of it pinned me in place. My mind reeled, trying to comprehend, to retaliate against the fear crashing within me. The presence grew stronger, wrapping around us like a shroud, until the very air vibrated with its intensity. As quickly as it began, it stopped. The shadows receded, melting away into the fabric of the manor. We were alone again, standing in the cold silence of Pinewood Manor, our breaths heavy in the frigid air. "Did you hear that?" I finally managed, voice breaking the quiet. Elliot nodded, eyes wide with disbelief. "We need to go," he repeated, urgency in his tone. As we left, crossing the threshold back into the realm of the living, I felt the weight of the manor's gaze on my back, a lingering reminder of the mysteries still hidden within. We made our way home under the cover of darkness, the cold night air biting at our skin. None of us spoke, each lost in our reflections of what had transpired within the manor's haunted walls. That night, I dreamt of Pinewood Manor. I saw its halls alive with light and laughter, the faces of those who once called it home. But the shadows were there too, lurking just beyond the reach of firelight, waiting for their moment. In the days that followed, Pinewood Manor lingered in my thoughts. The urge to return grew with every passing moment, spurred by a mixture of curiosity and a deep-seated desire to uncover the truth behind its shadowed halls. I found myself drawn back to the town's archives, searching for any piece of information that might explain the mysteries I had witnessed. Among the faded photographs and yellowed documents, I uncovered more about the manor's tumultuous past. Built by a wealthy financier in the late 19th century, the house bore witness to a series of misfortunes, bankruptcy, mysterious deaths, the whispers of scandal that clung to its walls. But it was the story of a little girl, drowned in the estate's lake, that chilled me the most. Her spirit was said to haunt the manor, her laughter the echo of a life cut tragically short. This tale, more than any other, rung true, its spectral fingerprints all over the experiences in the manor. Armed with this knowledge, I convinced Elliot and Laura to join me for a return visit, driven by an insatiable need to connect the threads of the past with the specters of the present. Reluctantly, they agreed, bound by curiosity and the strange allure the manor seemed to wield. We prepared carefully this time, bringing more equipment, a digital recorder, infrared cameras, temperature gauges, hoping to capture tangible evidence of the paranormal. As we approached the manor once more, I could feel the weight of its history pressing upon me, pressing us to uncover the truths hidden within its forgotten walls. Re-entering Pinewood Manor, we immediately noticed a change. The atmosphere was no longer merely tense with anticipation, but seemed charged with an undeniable presence, pulsating with energy both seen and unseen. We set about our investigation methodically, documenting each room, cataloging every anomaly. As dusk settled once more, the house seemed to awaken, its ethereal inhabitants eager to reveal their stories. It began with a flicker of movement in the library, a shadow disobeying the laws of light and physics. The temperature plummeted, our breath fanning out before us in ghostly clouds. We caught it on camera, a testament that we were not alone. The giggles returned, along with the soft strains of that music box lullaby, now undeniably familiar. As we followed the sounds, stepping deeper into the heart of the manor, we discovered the source, a music box resting on the mantel of the parlor fireplace, easily missed amidst the clutter of years. With trembling fingers, I wound the tarnished handle, the notes pure and clear. The melody stirred something ancient within the walls, a shiver running through the house as if it were alive. The shadows thickened, gathering around us, expectant and almost yearning. This time, I felt no fear, only a surge of unexpected tranquility, a calm within the storm. I understood these shadows were more than mere echoes of tragedy. They were guardians of memory, keepers of stories untold. Suddenly, the diary from our first visit slipped from my bag, seemingly of its own volition. It fell open to a page we hadn't seen before, covered in barely legible script. A story of love and loss, a plea for understanding, for release from the burdens of grief. The manor's tale unfolded before us, pages fluttered by unseen hands revealing the lives once vibrant within its halls, their joys and sorrows woven together in a tapestry of time. The apparition of a young girl, eyes bright with mischief, appeared, her translucent form flickering at the edge of vision. She watched us with a gaze both curious and mournful. I felt an unspoken connection, as if she were entrusting me with her story, her legacy. "I think she just wants to be remembered," Laura whispered, her voice reverberating with emotion. It was as if the house and all its inhabitants called out for vindication, longing for the truth of their existence to be known. The shadows parted, revealing glimpses of a past alive with hope and heartache. Each room resonated with their experiences, each echo whispering tales of love lost, dreams deferred. As the night deepened, the bond between the manor and its spectral tenants grew, culminating in one final, profound encounter. The young girl approached, reaching out with tentative hands, seeking connection. Instinctively, I extended my hand, feeling impossibly the cool brush of ethereal fingers meeting flesh. A flood of emotions washed over me, fear, joy, love, and above all, a sense of peace. Through this connection, I understood that Pinewood Manor was more than a house. It was a sanctuary for lost souls, a place where echoes of the past continued to live, waiting for their stories to be heard, their burdens finally laid to rest. As dawn approached, its light banishing the shadows, we left Pinewood Manor's hallowed halls, our hearts heavy yet lightened by the tales shared. The manor stood still and silent behind us, its gaze gentle, releasing us from its grip. There was no fear in my heart, only gratitude for the door the manor had opened into the past, for the understanding and compassion we had explored. It was not the horrors that lingered, but the humanity, the lives lived in all their messy, beautiful complexity. In the weeks that followed, we shared our experiences, the truths we had uncovered. The people of the town listened in awe, the tales of Pinewood Manor reshaped from stories of fear to celebrations of life. The manor itself, still standing, became a place of reverence, a testament to endurance, to the eternal dance of life and death. Its shadows no longer haunted but danced with grace, revealing the fleeting nature of our existence, the sacred moments we often overlook. I realized that Pinewood Manor held many secrets, some that would remain untold, whispers on the edges of consciousness, reminders of life's fleeting beauty. In that old house, beneath layers of dust and time, was a story complex and profound, a piece of history too important to forget. My journey into Pinewood Manor changed me, a mystery seeker turned storyteller, bearing witness to the lives that left indelible marks upon the world, transforming echoes of the past into vibrant stories of the present. Through its haunting and reverie, I found a new purpose, embracing the continuity of life's fragile essence, accepting the echoes that carry us through time, shaping our lives one lingering breath at a time. All right, that's the end of today's story. Thank you for joining me on this thrilling journey through the shadows of life and death. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the little bell to get more spine-chilling tales from Whisper of Horror. Remember, every soul has a story, and here, we give them a voice. See you next time. Stay curious, stay cautious, and keep whispering horror.